Yeah. So I think one of the important instances that we still have to cover in detail is the Goa Inquisition, of course, and I think RTG has prepared a presentation for us, which also includes the methodologies that were used during the Inquisition, and I think it focuses a little bit on the Goa Inquisition itself. So I think let's have a look at the at RTG's presentation now.
Yes, thank you, Ajit. Is the presentation visible?
Yeah, now it's visible. You can go ahead.
Okay, fine. Firstly, thank you so much. And it was very enlightening to listen to my speaker friends. I'll try not to repeat the points and I'll try to bring more new facts and information. So we understand that in the past 2000 years, Christianity has done more harm than any other religion in the world. Islam has tried to compete with it, but still Christianity remains at the top. It has burnt people, it has slaughtered people, killed people, all in the name of God, all in the name of religion, all in the name of truth, and for its own good. So when we have a murderer who is murdering you for your own good, then he can never have the feeling of guilt, because after murdering he thinks he is a better human being, he thinks he's doing for the god, he thinks he's doing for the humanity, so he does evil thinking that he is doing good. So this indoctrination in the people's mind is very dangerous. So it is clearly an attack, it is a war on other religions, which missionaries justify it as a religious war. But how can a war ever be religious? Right. I'll just okay. So the word Inquisition is derived from the Latin word inquiro, which means to inquire. And this Inquisition was held in response to heresy, which already is covered by my friend Balakrishna. So heresy is an opinion which is not in the line with the church teachings. So in the Middle Ages, when Roman Church was established, heresy was the biggest enemy of the society. So if anyone who questioned the truth or orthodox beliefs of Jesus, then that person was believed to be from outside the community and was persecuted. Inquisition was done based on a strong unity of church and state. The church did not wait for the complaints to come to them. They hunted down heretics and they handed over to the state for further persecution, which was mainly done through burning. Later on, the great law code of Justinian came, which regarded heresy as a treason. And for that, death was the only punishment. We all know Galileo for his contributions to motion and in the field of astronomy. His beliefs were seen as heresy, and he was tortured during the Inquisition. So this Inquisition in the coming centuries extended to witch hunting, blasphemy, sacrilege, etc. So we need to understand that Inquisition actually worked as an institution in a bureaucratic way, in a hierarchical way. So there were inquisitors, there were Inquisition centers, there were inquisitorial courts, there were inquisitorial tribunals. We'll just go through the timeline of the series of the Inquisitions which happened. So it was started by, the first Inquisition was in France in the 12th century, already covered by my friend Balakrishna, where Cathars were to be converted. One thing which I like to add here is that Cathars were able to resist the conversions because they were very well organized with their bishops and clergy. And this bloody crusade against the Cathars ran for 20 years. And there is one instance in the 12th century when a city of France named Béziers was sacked, and around 20,000 men, women, and children were killed by the Crusaders. But still, this Catharism still survives. So, and then came the Protestant Reformation, when Europe was completely into the war of religion, which caused a conflict between the Protestants and the Catholics. So it was a religious revolution which started from Germany and Switzerland, and it got spread widely across the entire Europe. Then started a series of bloody inquisitions, Spanish inquisitions, the most violent and bloody inquisitions, and it remained intact for 354 years. It was basically to root out the false Christians like Jews and Muslims who claimed to convert to Christianity but were secretly practicing their own religion. Around 291,450 people were heavily punished. 31,912 were burnt. Protestants were also the frequent targets of this Inquisition. And then came the witch trials. It is surprising that these people lecture us on how Hindus have patriarchy. But next time, if a leftist tells you how regressive Hinduism is, tell them to check the church records of England, when thousands of wise women were killed, claiming them to be witches, and all the wise women were lost in the next 200 years. The medieval church did not want the women to they didn't believe that women could do God's work. Churches were opening up universities. They were also a profession of medicine which was to be practiced, and they needed to wipe out the competition. Then many other inquisitions like Portuguese Inquisition came, which expanded its scope to Brazil and in Goa. So in Goa, we had the Hindus faced miserable times under the Inquisition law, which affected them socially, culturally, and economically. Then came Roman Inquisition, which was designed to combat Protestantism in Italy. And in the Roman Inquisition, around 45 to 60,000 women were executed, claiming them to be witches. And the Italian philosopher Bruno was burnt to death. Then came the Mexican Inquisition, which was an extension to the Spanish Inquisition, and it ran for 250 years. The number of deaths is still unknown in the Mexican Inquisition. Then came the African Inquisition. We know that the early Europeans, they linked dark skin with evil. There have been attempts to claim that African men are devil and women are witches. So if we see the Spanish medieval art, there has been consistent portrayal of devil as a black man. Then they came in Asia, where we had the Chinese Inquisition and then followed by the Burma Inquisition. Now, how did these people enter India? It all started with the arrival of Vasco da Gama. His seamen were mostly pirates, and they took the holy orders from the church. Force was introduced freely for conversion, and when they came on the shores, but his efforts were not very successful. He wrote to the king of Portugal that this country cannot be converted unless they are made loyal to the church. And then Saint Francis Xavier was sent, and he could convert 50,000 fishermen along the west coast. And then came the merciless Inquisition law. So their years of missionary work made them understand that the lower strata of society shall be easy to convert, which shall be the untouchables, the depressed classes. So they gave them economic aids and inducements, and they prepared them as a force in support to the colonial government, which was the British government in most of the countries. Same thing they did in China, same thing they did in Burma. In Burma, there is a tribe called as Karen tribes, which they completely converted. And when Burma got independence, this tribe was expelled from Burma, from the country. And now these people who are loyal to the missionaries, they work for Chinese and they help the Naga rebels to support China. The same story is reenacted in northeastern tribals of Nagaland, Mizoram, and Arunachal, where the missionaries of American Baptist Mission, they declared a war on Indian government. And these tribals, they say that they are not Indians and they are Christians. Same is happening in Tamil Nadu, in Kerala. Missionaries tell the converts that they are the rejects of India and they are slaves. Americans are our friends, and they are taught that they shall enjoy the fundamental rights as enshrined in the UN Charter. We know that billions and billions of money is invested in India for conversion, all through the American organizations like Rockefeller and the likes. Well, this is history, but the present is also not very different. We have missionaries who have entered the political system of India. So be it DMK in Tamil Nadu, Pinarayi in Kerala, and the latest CM of Punjab, Mr. Channi, who supports conversion. World's fourth largest church is coming up in Jalandhar, and there is no noise. And we should understand how covertly these missionaries work. So it is a mistake to think that this is a religious movement. It is completely a political agenda. It's completely a propaganda. I'll just go quickly through the methodologies used. There are 4 stages how the methodology of Inquisition is used. So the first stage is the edict of, just a sec. The fourth stage is the edict of faith. So we need to understand that the accused had no rights to, and he had no rights to know who the accuser is. The accused had no rights to hire a lawyer. The accused had no rights to know what the nature of charges leveled against him are. So torture was used in almost all the cases. So the edict of faith. So here, 202, around 250 to 300 inquisitors would visit a place and they would preach the people about the sin of heresy. And then they will publish an edict of faith, giving details on how to spot a heretic. And then some weeks are given, and then people come out with their voluntary confessions. And several handbooks were written for the budding inquisitors, which talked about the tricks on why and how to make people confess. The experience of accused, the second stage, it is like they were completely unaware of the charges filed against them. They were completely unaware of the accusers. They didn't have, they were not allowed to call for witnesses. So if the accused is found guilty, he was imprisoned and his properties were confiscated, and they were not allowed to talk to anyone except the inquisitors. And then, even if after that they don't confess, they were handed over to the state, right, for the capital punishment. Burning was the most preferred kind of punishment because the motto of the church was the church shrinks from blood. Hence, burning was preferred as it did not shed blood. But later on, the punishments became merciless and various torture methods were used, including flogging, including roasting of feet, the water torture. So in water torture, the victim would be bound to the rack and his head lower than the rest of the body, and the water be forced into his mouth. The last stage is the act of faith. So there was this, it was held in public where hundreds of heretics would be sentenced. So there used to be a place for burning, especially for burning, where they were attached to the posts and then burned in large conflagration. So all those victims who repented for not being burnt, the victims who didn't want to get burnt, they were sentenced to death first, and then they were burnt. So these torture activities were carried out in Goa Inquisition too. Let's see what happened there. So there were many physical torture methods used in the Goa Inquisition. One of them is dismembering children limb by limb in front of their parents till the parents confess. The another method is the body was dipped in hot oil. The chopping of hands while tied to the pillar. There is a pillar in Old Goa which is called as Hath Khatro Khamb, and it is now somewhere lost in the main city. Then there was bone breaking, genital mutilation, oxygen deprivation, drowning, crushing of bones. And the other things which happened in the Goa Inquisition was that more than 350 temples were destroyed. Murti puja was banned, making murtis was banned. People were not provided public offices. They were not allowed to perform the final funeral rites of their loved ones. You must have heard the song Na Mangu Sona Chandi from the movie Bobby, where it is inspired from a famous Goan folk song. And that song is actually a very sad song where the Goans are crying to cross the sea to save themselves from the Portuguese. So surprisingly, it is now a party song which is played in the cruise. So wearing bindi, sari, using chandan paste, tulsi, everything was banned. Playing Hindu musical instruments were banned. So even now, Christians, when they marry in Goa, they offer coconut to the Kuldev and then they send the notice to the church. We'll just quickly go through the weapons. So this is a pulley where the man is hung at a height, and a weight of 45 to 50 kgs is attached to him on his legs. The another weapon was used is rack, where because of the body of the victim used to get stretched, and slowly the muscles got torn apart, and slowly the bones were also dislocated. The another one is iron boot. Iron boot was wore from which it was wore from ankle to the knee, and then it was hammered by some. It was hammered, and then the bones were also dislocated, and the bones were crushed. The another weapon used was breast ripper, which was used to detach the breast from the torso. Then there was Judas cradle, which was actually to damage the genitals of the victim. Then there was head crusher, which crushed the skeleton, crushed the skull of the victim. And then there was heretics fork, which kept the neck in a very erect way and stiff. So any movement in the neck could damage the person. So the conclusion, I'd like to conclude it saying that we Hindus really need to wake up. This missionary is not past now, and it is still going on. We need to spread the awareness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was a very eye-opening, enlightening session. I want to thank all the panelists. And I also want to thank the team that has organized the uncrossing, because they're creating a lot of interest in this subject, which is very necessary. They're creating fantastic content also for the future. So thank you so much, and thank you for watching and for tuning in today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.